One of the most famous things about Old Leigh is its cockle sheds. For hundreds of years, cockles have been harvested from the Thames estuary, and today is no exception. There are a number of cockle traders along Cockleshell Row where you can buy and enjoy fresh seafood. I've put a link to the list of traders in the comments. However, when you think of the cockle sheds, most people know Osborne's, who have run their cockling business in Old Leigh since 1881. A day tripper's paradise, Old Leigh was and still is a popular spot for day trippers from London and other inland areas seeking a little sun, sea and sand. Cockles and other seafood were purchased and consumed in the old town whilst enjoying a bit of coastal air. Cockles were also purchased and taken back to London and sold outside pubs measured in pint glasses. There are a number of fishing boats that go out of Old Leigh, of which the Osbornes have several. Whilst in Leigh, we were able to see their Mary Amelia, which was named after one of the Osborne maternal ancestors. We also spotted the Renown. The fishing week typically starts around 9 p.m. on a Sunday evening. In 1881, Thomas Osborne set up the business selling cockles from Cockleshed Row, and now the same but expanded business still operates out of Old Leigh by fifth generation Osbornes, who still harvest cockles and are providing seafood to their local seafood cafe and fishmongers, but also they trade out of Billingsgate Fish Market in London, Spain and many other coastal regions. In 1910, Thomas's son bought a boat, the Galley, paying £10 from Chatham in Kent. Shortly after purchasing the boat, Thomas Osborne and one of his other sons took over the running of the Crooked Billet pub, which is situated opposite the Cockleshed Cafe. His other three sons remained in the seafood business and commissioned the building of the Mary Amelia in 1914 by Haywards of Southend. In 1928, the first Renown boat was built, again by Haywards of Southend. This boat, along with the Endeavour, Letitia, Resolute and Defender, were requisitioned by the Admiralty to form part of the 800-plus fleet of boats which later became known to be the Little Boats, to help the evacuation of Allied troops from the beaches of Dunkirk, called Operation Dynamo. Their role was to ferry troops from the beaches of Dunkirk to the ships awaiting in deeper water. As a result, the little boats, 340,000+ Allied soldiers were saved in an event that Winston Churchill described as a colossal military disaster, but hailed as a miracle. The Renown hit a mine on the way back from this mission, losing all 4 crew members, and in 1972 a memorial was placed in the churchyard of St Clement's in Leigh Broadway to commemorate this, which can be seen later in this video. In 1947, a second Renown was built by Seacraft in Leigh-on-Sea, but as it drew in too much water it was sold and a third Renown was commissioned. The fourth Renown was launched in 1991, which is the one we believe is in the video that you're watching now. Freshly from the hopper, cockles were steamed for about 4 minutes to open up their shells and to release their meat. After this they were cleaned and then ready to eat. In the 1980s the cooking process changed a little in order to meet the requirements of health and safety. Osborne's Cafe, opposite the Crooked Billet in the heart of Old Leigh, used to be the 18th century stable mews belonging to the pub, which were used to house the horse and carts that delivered ale. The cockles that are harvested from the Thames estuary have been growing for hundreds of years, and cockles are prolific reproducers, so the stock is abundantly replenished. Cockle season typically runs from about 6 months of the year, May to October. The cockles harvested, once processed, are packaged up for sale locally, nationally and internationally. They are permitted to collect 14 tonnes a day, and the boatload takes around 3.5 hours to cook. Cockles lie around an inch just under the surface of the sand. The cocklers used to take out the boat and drop anchor and wait for the tide to go out, and collect the cockles by hand using rakes and nets, filling 2 baskets that they would return to the boat with, carrying, and empty them to return for some more. Nowadays though, the cockles are vacuumed up off of the cockle beds. They go through a dredger which removes the sand and debris and any cockles which are too small. So what happens to the shells? Well, as a child, I remember being able to take handfuls of shells from next to the cockle sheds, but these days the shells are crushed and used in such things like pathways and on golf courses. So, like many other people, I have memories from my childhood of visiting the cockle sheds where my dad would enjoy a pot of cockles and on the long walk back along the cinder path to home. My dad was also a fish porter at Billingsgate before I was born, and one thing he and I have in common is that we both love the smell of the fresh fishmongers. So how are cockles best enjoyed? Well, they tell me with a little bit of vinegar and a little bit of pepper. This memorial stands in the churchyard of St Clement's in Leigh Broadway, overlooking the sea. It serves as a reminder of the brave crew who lost their lives on the Renown in 1940 on their return from the assistance in the evacuation of Dunkirk.
We shall fight in France. We shall fight on the seas and oceans. We shall fight with growing confidence and growing strength in the air. We shall defend our island, whatever the cost may be. We shall fight on the beaches. We shall fight on the landing grounds. We shall fight in the fields and in the streets. We shall fight in the hills. We shall never surrender. And if, which I do not for a moment believe, this island or a large part of it were subjugated and starving, then our empire beyond the seas, armed and guarded by the British fleet, would carry on the struggle until, in God's good time, the new world, with all its power and might, steps forth to the rescue and the liberation of the old.
So today I'm going to start off by casting one of the cockles found at the cockle sheds in the video you saw. I'm going to cast this in solid silver. I've actually brought the camera this time into a slightly different position, so I'm hoping you can see over the top, because it's really satisfying watching that silver melt. So we start off with Delft clay. Now this is, you can buy Petrobond or you can buy Delft clay. Delft clay is apparently more expensive, but I got this in a kit, so I can't tell you price wise, but everyone says it's more expensive. To be fair, I quite liked working with the Delft clay. Petrobond's okay, but I really did enjoy it. Now I've cast something before, which is why they're already in the rings. I've already scraped out the burnt bits because you can't use them, and I've put them in the bin. But this is all totally reusable. There's two rings I'm using today, male, female, and they slot together like so. I don't know whether you can grease these. Perhaps somebody could put in the comments if you're doing it and you'll find the right thing, but I haven't done it so far because I don't want to compromise the actual clay that I'm using. So pop them out of the way first of all. I've got a little metal ruler and I'll just chomp it all up so that you can get it nice and fine, because you don't want any lumps in it that then suddenly form as what you're trying to cast. So the finer it is, particularly the bits where you're going to put that shell in the surface, the better. So give it a bit of a chop up with me. So we've got this, which is the male one. We turn it upside down and we start popping in the the Delft clay. So I shove a few bits in and I start to press it down with my thumb. We will get to a point where we're going to hammer it down, but as you can imagine, we're not going to get a great deal hammering there. So I like to shovel a bit more in and press it right the way down first until it starts to come up, and that way I can get a really smooth surface. My brother, who will be watching this, has told me I have to speak more in these videos, and at some point you actually have to see me. I'm getting there. So we've got to the top bit and I'm going to start hammering it down. Doesn't matter what hammer it is, this is just the one I like to use. Okay, and there we have a nice smooth top. So, just moving this out of the way. Okay, pop a little bit of talcum powder on. Doesn't matter which. I've just got baby powder and a lovely swirl around with a paintbrush. I'm quite generous actually, and it stops it sticking when you put the other half on. So okay, male and female connect. This is where it'd be nice if this was a bit greasier. Okay, and we've still got our small surface, so we're now going to start to put in the other part. Like with the first one, excuse the dogs, pressing it down. And keep pressing. And I like to clear the waste away. Taking the two bits apart. And time to cast the shell. So here's our shell. I'm going to put it into the bottom half and just gentle pressure. It's literally sinking in really easily. Okay, so while that's still in there, I tend to do the air roots from here. And I use just like a clay tool, it's like dentistry tool. It's just to escape roots for the air to go when the silver goes in. Ooh. So lifting the shell out. You can see the shell imprint in that. So I'm going to add in a little bit of talcum on both sides and brush it through. Blow the excess off. And now you make your pour hole. So I'm going to use the end of the brush and just wiggle it a little bit. Comes through on the top half. You need to make a pouring spout. Now this bit coming off is not a problem. That's fine. to be just enough of a hole for the silver to get down there. So I like to put a little bit more talc on that. I just don't think it hurts, and I shove it down the hole a little bit as well. And blow off the excess. And then join 2 pieces together. Like that. Right, I tend to put them on like a heat-proof dish. So I'm going to move that to the side. Now I usually find it really satisfying watching the silver melt, so I thought you might. So I've put the camera in a different position today to see if I can show you a little easier the silver melting. Now, I usually have bits and bobs in here, but I've done some others. So I've got, let's have this. It's a reasonable sized shell, so it's a piece there. And I tend to put all the odds and bits and pieces in first because I like to just get them to where we're like lumps on there. Okay, and then I can shove another lump on if I think I need it. Nothing wastes, nothing ever wastes. It all just goes back in the melting pot, and we're there. So, like I said, I started off trying to use one of these, but as you can see, I'll fire this up. It ain't going to do anything at all. Doesn't even make it glow. So these mini blowtorches I find are better for things like joining really thin pieces of silver together. I'm going to pop a little bit of borax in there, which basically just cleans it up a little bit. It's only like a pinch, and you'll see this fly up as soon as the flame goes on it, but it cleans it. I turn it up. It's liquid, it isn't a point at which we can pour. From what I see on YouTube, most people say down to about 30 afterwards. I normally do about 60. It doesn't hurt. Pour it with the flame on it. And there you have it. Some people will grab it at this point and pull it out. I'm not some people, I'm not that brave. And as you can see, it reignites quite easily for a minute, and the metal is still glowing. Okay, so now it's gone out. I will pull it out now. I usually put it out with a pair of pliers. and then the rest of it doesn't get too hot. And there's the cockle shell. So as you can see, actually I haven't really got much in the way of air gaps, which is brilliant, so I haven't got loads that I've got to take off. So I actually give that a minute or two before putting it into the pickle, because otherwise it's going to hiss, but you don't want to break anything. So there she is. So what I've got to cut off is that little bit at the base, which I hate that bit. So I do try and make it thin, and then all of that will then start to sand down, and that will come up beautifully, and we'll put that in as a pendant. And then the shell, as I said, that we cast it with will go with it. So just popping it into the pickle. As you can hear. Now, because I've taken that out, this isn't too hot at all. So you need to discard the bits that are burnt, but the rest you can use again. And there you see the burnt parts in it. So scrape out the burnt bits. And that is fine to use again. So, been in for a little bit of a clean up in jeweller's pickle. So I'm just going to give it a wipe, just so it's drier. And as you can see, it's all on there. It's like white. Yeah. So, one of my favourite bits is polishing up. Nice steel brush, £1 for a pack of 3, fabulous. A bit of a rough brush up. And you can see it's already coming up a lovely silver colour. The other bits I have to do is I need to saw this off. Not my favourite part of this, but sometimes I use electric saw and file away all the little bits and pieces, and then buff it all the way up, attach it to put a loop on the top of it so that it can become a pendant, and that's it really. I'll show you the finished photographs at the end of this. I don't think you want to sit through all the boring parts.